Chemoreceptors respond to only water-soluble and liquid-soluble substances such as interstitial fluid, plasma, and cerebrospinal fluid. They help with identifying changes within the cerebrospinal fluid and the pH of blood. They also identify the level of carbon dioxide in the blood. Peripheral chemoreceptors can be found in the carotid bodies located on the side of the neck near the internal carotid arteries, and aortic bodies located between the branches of the aortic arch. These types of receptors help identify the level of oxygen in the arterial blood and the arterial carbon dioxide and pH. Since we are not consciously aware of the sensations that our chemoreceptors provide, the control of breathing as well as the sensory information is routed and begins in the brainstem. One of the main portions of the brainstem, known as the medulla oblongata, is located at the lowest portion of the brainstem inferior to the pons seen here in the picture. It controls many functions of our breathing within the heart and lungs. More specifically, the medulla oblongata controls breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. The importance of blood-brain barrier is to help keep unwanted substances in the blood out of the brain in order to allow the appropriate substances to go into the brain. A fluid-filled central passageway that extends along the spinal cord and brain is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. The importance of this fluid is to help with the transportation of dissolved gases, nutrients, waste, and other materials. pH helps identify the acidity or alkalinity of any kind of solution. In this case of the chemoreceptor control of breathing, pH helps identify the acidity or alkalinity of blood. Carbon dioxide is the gas that is breathed out during exhalation. If there is too much carbon dioxide being breathed out, then the blood pH levels increase and become more basic. If there is not enough carbon dioxide being breathed out, then the blood pH levels decrease and become more acidic. Cranial nerves play an important role in the control of the compositions of the cerebrospinal fluid. The glossopharyngeal nerve is responsible for carrying chemoreceptive information from the carotid bodies, which are stimulated by a change in blood pH or partial pressure of oxygen in the blood. The vagus nerve helps with monitoring chemoreceptors in aortic bodies, which are stimulated by the change in blood pH or the partial pressure of oxygen in blood. Lastly, the phrenic nerve is responsible for the nerve impulses being sent through it to increase the breathing rate and the volume of lungs during inhalation. There are two components of breathing: voluntary control and involuntary control. In this process, involuntary control takes place. Involuntary control is the depth of and rate of breathing. This happens from the respiratory rhythmicity center in the medulla oblongata, where a dorsal respiratory group and ventral respiratory group are included. The DRG and IRG are modified by our pneustic and pneumotaxic centers of the pons. These centers help control the pace and depth of respiration. This is done by adjusting the output of the DRG and IRG. The diaphragm plays an important role in breathing. It helps with the inflation of the lungs because it opens up the thoracic cavity during inhalation. External intercostal muscles, seen here, help with the movement of the chest during breathing. They are located on the lateral portion of the rib cage. Accessory inspiratory and expiratory muscles are both used during breathing. Inspiratory muscles are abnormal but are used during inhalation. Expiratory muscles are abnormal as well but are used during exhalation. These two muscles are only used when a person may feel they are unable to breathe fully on their own. This type of breathing is being forced rather than happening involuntarily. Hypercapnia is an increase in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the arterial blood. The response to an increase in carbon dioxide is triggered by the carotid and aortic bodies. Through this process, the rate and depth of respiration increases. Hyperventilation is when the rate of respiration slows down and is unable to meet the correct amount of oxygen delivery and carbon dioxide removal. If the rate of respiration becomes too high, this is called hyperventilation. This can lead to low carbon dioxide levels, which is known as hypocapnia.